7 years ago, I used to have local clinicians reach out to me all the time, just wanting my advice. You say, I'm working with this guy with autism, or I'm seeing a kid with ADHD, and people that they should have been seeing them to begin with because they had no specialization in it, but that's another story. But I don't get those people reaching out to me anymore. And I was like, well, why don't they reach out now when I have much more visibility? And I think it's because a lot of clinicians believe that they're experts in this now because there's been, it's been more visible, having neurodevelopmental differences. So on top of that, I've seen really quite an extreme politicization of the called the neurodiverse parenting space. And also on top of that, because as you mentioned before with TikTok, we are also seeing a tremendous amount of self-diagnosing on social media. So I'll tell you, last year I did 2 presentations. One was at a very large state university for the clinicians there, in the counseling department. And the other one was for clinicians who worked at a consortium of community colleges. And in both those presentations, different states, I was asked to address the amount of students who are coming into these counseling centers self-diagnosing themselves, often with a neurodevelopmental difference such as ADHD or autism. And at the one presentation, there was a neuropsychologist there from their testing clinic. And she shared with me that this had become so common that they nicknamed, these students coming in as TikTok diagnosers. And on top of that, when they would tell them that they didn't have an autism diagnosis, they said some of them get, pretty angry about it and say, you're missing something. Like they want the diagnosis so badly, despite the fact they have no developmental history of autism.
But what do you think causes this emotional attachment to these diagnoses that you kind of self-diagnose based on TikTok videos? Why are people so attached to it?
Yeah, so I think it's a confluence of a few different things. So I think for a lot of them, those individuals have watched videos on TikTok or social media of, somebody saying, I have autism and I fly into a rage or, whatever this is. And they hear these things and they say, oh, this makes sense, right? This is why I'm emotionally dysregulated. This is why I have a history of poor interpersonal relationships. It must be because of autism. It can't be because of something else. I was just never diagnosed. So there's that group. I think there's, another group who are looking for an identity as part of a marginalized group, which is, I think, a lot of the individuals who are coming into the counseling centers at these colleges I mentioned. And I think, that is for them, it's really just consistent with Jonathan Haidt's research, where he looked at and saw that the mental health of young women who identify as liberal or progressive, kind of has sunk the fastest. And why is it sunk the fastest? Well, it's not about, who they voted for president. It's about that they spend the most time on social media and they spend the most time consuming content that, provides this victim framework for them.